there are many different types of Buddhism, and as my precious guru Zazab Tulku Rinpoche sometimes says, it doesn't matter whether you bite into the Zen Buddhism, the Theravadan Buddhism, or Tibetan Buddhism, it all tastes delicious. What I want to talk to you about today is the way in which Tibetan Buddhism, or Mahayana Buddhism more broadly, is different from other flavors of Buddhism. And that difference can be summarized in the word bodhicitta. Now, bodhicitta comes from two Sanskrit words, bodhi, meaning enlightened or awakened, and citta, meaning mind. And it's important to understand here that when we talk about mind, we're not just talking about cerebral, intellectual, cognitive processing, we're also talking about heart and feelings and emotions. So the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta, may also be described as the heart of enlightenment. Maitreya Buddha once defined bodhicitta as, for the sake of others, the wish to become enlightened. And what our objective is when we recollect bodhicitta is to think, by this act of generosity, say, or by this act of purification, may I quickly attain enlightenment in order to lead all other living beings to this same state. So we wish to become enlightened in order to help all other beings become enlightened too. That is the bodhicitta motivation. And you might, when initially hearing this, think, well, that kind of sounds okay, but is it really such a big deal? It's important when we come across any fresh information from a Dharma perspective to go through three steps. The first is to listen and read, however we generally get hold of things, assimilate things, to think about them, to just have it in the back of our mind and bring it to mind during the course of the day, and to meditate on them, where we can start to assimilate things at a more profound level of consciousness, of mind and heart. And after we've done this and we've had a good chance to get to grips with this concept of infinite altruism, bodhicitta, we start to realize what an extraordinary big deal it actually is, and while it's sometimes called the jewel of the mind. Because what we are doing is actually saying that we don't just simply want to help those people that we care for, those in our little circle, or those people that are like special causes to us, to be free from whatever the suffering they're undergoing right now. We want all living beings, people we care for, people we don't care for, complete strangers, of which there are an infinite multitude, not only on planet Earth, not only sentient beings on planet Earth, but in the 100,000 other life-bearing planets in the world, in the universe, which is the number according to the Amitabha Kosha. So it really is the number of beings that we wish to become enlightened to help is infinite. And second of all, what we are seeking to do is not simply ensure that they are happy here and now, that they are well fed, that they are cared for, that they have security, that nobody's trying to bomb them, world peace, that's a part of it. But we actually want to go a lot further than that and say we would like for all of them to become fully enlightened beings too. So there is actually no greater motivation than this, which is precisely why Shantideva, the wonderful Buddhist sage who wrote the Guide to the Bodhisattva Way of Being, once described the difference between an action motivated by just kindness and one motivated by bodhicitta as quite different. He said, on the one hand, kindness is like a plantain tree or a banana tree. It flourishes once, it bears fruit once. That positive action will produce a positive result. However, if we do exactly the same action motivated by bodhicitta, that same action will produce limitless positive results. Why? Because of our motivation, which is for limitless beings and for them not simply to be well fed and secure and happy and safe in the kind of conventional sense, but for them to become fully enlightened Buddhas. So this is why bodhicitta is the most extraordinarily powerful mind of infinite altruism. And our objective as budding incipient bodhisattvas in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition is to try and graft onto our daily activities bodhicitta motivation. So, and instead of simply, say, opening a can of food and feeding the cat and saying, here, pussy, pussy, come and enjoy your dinner, we might think, by this act of generosity, may I quickly achieve complete and perfect enlightenment for the benefit of all beings without exception. Now, you might think, well, that's a bit of a clunky intellectual exercise, and you're going to feed the cat anyway. What's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that we are starting to train our mind in thinking about bodhicitta, and we can do it throughout the day. In fact, we do try and do it throughout the day with every action that we do. Whether you're having a shower, washing your hands, washing the car, going to all acts of, by this act of purification, etc. Or whether we're going to the gym, drinking coffee, eating food, by this act of nourishing my body, may I have plenty of practice and become fully enlightened being in order to help all other beings attain complete and perfect enlightenment. So throughout the day, what we're trying to do is recollect bodhicitta constantly. And you might say, well, this all sounds kind of a bit weird, but what's the end point? Well, the end point is we want, this is clever Buddhist psychology, the mask certainly becomes the person. And the end point is for this kind of object of mind, this idea of the mind, bodhicitta, to become subjective to the mind, so that we start to see everything through the lens of bodhicitta. Once I heard it described to me as a bit like putting on a pair of sunglasses. When you put on sunglasses, you see everything through those lenses. And similarly, when we start to think in terms of bodhicitta constantly, we start to see the world through the lens of bodhicitta. Also, another way of thinking about it is that we start off with this idea of bodhicitta, which may seem, or it is certainly completely remote and a bit weird and out there to start off with. But the more we acquaint our minds with the more it becomes, well, almost like an obvious and sensible and a highly desirable thing to do, and the more genuine and heartfelt and authentic it becomes. So we're moving bodhicitta as a concept from an object to a subject of the mind. It becomes the way we perceive reality. And that's the whole point. The mask becomes the person. What starts off as being completely contrived and superficial, and the Dalai Lama often talks about this process being one that feels kind of, putting it on. I was going to feed the cat anyway, I was going to have a shower anyway, etc. But the more we practice it, the more it starts to become ourselves. It becomes who we are. And so the whole idea of bodhicitta is to embody it. It's not just about an idea, it's not about learning, it's actually about transformation of body, speech and mind through constant recollection. And when we do this, our objective essentially is to become a living, breathing embodiment of bodhicitta, at which point we become bodhisattvas. So that, in very brief summary, is the concept of bodhicitta. For the sake of all living beings, the wish to become enlightened, a jewel of the mind of infinite altruism, which has no peer, there's no greater altruism than this, and something which is not simply an object, an idea, but something we try our best to embody throughout the day, and it comes from being something that's kind of out there and separate from us to being our genuine motivation, the real reason why we actually do things. We start to see the world through the lens of bodhicitta. Bodhicitta becomes who we are. That is our aspiration as Tibetan Buddhists, and I hope you find this little explanation helpful.